55 minutes of glory, 55 minutes until freedom. I'm Emerson Lotze, everybody, hosting the show we call The Sweat, presented by DraftKings. So coming up, Kyler Murray gets paid, and now the pressure is on. And you know what? There's a nice little spicy, fun-filled prop bet that you could get after, a little future on the DK Sportsbook. So we're going to break that down with our analysts. Plus, the playoffs closing in, we're going to Pocono on the track. And I'm going to ask Pierce and I'm going to ask Jeff to rank their favorite M&Ms as well, because M&Ms is very involved this week. It's in the title of the race, in fact. But America's pastime is now the present. We got a beefy slate tonight, as really the second half of the season is kicking off. Started a little bit yesterday with some teams, so like Mookie delivered, that was incredible. 3-run go-ahead home run, sealed the game with a diving catch. Also, the Yankees humbled. The Yankees humbled last night. Get a little dose, little reality check in Houston. They got swept by the Astros. Let's talk about tonight. DraftKings contributors Gary and Thor, Matt Meiselman, RotoWire's Paul Bruno. Tonight, which pitcher do you like in the $8,500 or higher price range, Gare Bear?
I'm a pretty simple man at this point. If the Angels are on the slate, I'm probably going to pick against the Angels. And this is a really fun slate. This is basically opening day 2.0. We've got a lot of aces. We've got a lot of high upside pitchers taking the mound tonight. And yes, Charlie Morton probably has a much lower floor than a lot of the guys who are pitching. But when you even just isolate Morton's own strikeout success in his recent starts, this is someone who across his last 8 appearances has a 34.3% strikeout rate. He's really been perfectly fine if you take out his very, very bad start to the season, which I think you can almost a little bit excuse. He's a very old man who got a very short spring training. I think he kind of had to round into form. So Charlie Morton's been very good. He's less than 9K going up against an Angels team that for the month of July is basically striking out in a third of their plate appearances and has a 51 WRC plus. And on top of that, lost Mike Trout to the IL over the course of the All-Star break. So I don't really care how popular it's going to be. I don't really care how easy it is. I just don't trust the Angels to do anything at this point.
All right, Paul, what direction you going in, man? $8,500 or more? Well,
Emerson, you sound like you're feeling a little salty for a Friday. So am I. I'm come right at you with Kevin Gausman, who signed with Toronto for big games against the AL East, and this will be his 4th start against the Bo Sox this season. He's fared pretty well in the 3 previous ones, allowing only a couple of earned runs against the Bo Sox, 15 hits, 1 earned run, in fact, while striking out 27 and walking only 2. He cost $9,100 tonight. Comes into this game on a nice stretch. He's only allowed 3 homers over 94 innings pitched this season. That will be challenged tonight in the little ballpark in Beantown, I think.
Okay, Matty Ice, hook us up.
Well, just to touch on the Mookie Betts thing, he did hit a game-winning home run last night, but he also stole a base, and in my world, that is far more important. So that was a very exciting Dodgers game. For tonight, there's so many underpriced pitchers that it's really difficult to make a choice, and fading the ownership, I think, will be more viable in hitting. For pitching, though, I think Morton is a fine choice. He's probably my second favorite, though. Corbin Burns is just in such a good spot against the Rockies, too. And I think because he's a little more expensive than Morton, he'll just be a little less owned. But honestly, you can make a lineup with both of those guys. There really are a lot of good pitching choices tonight. We haven't even talked about Shohei Ohtani. Max Scherzer is pitching. It's a wild pitching slate. So, yeah, kind of go with any of these guys, but I think Burns is a really good choice.
All right, Matty, who do you want to pay up for in the batter's box? Give me a hitter north of 5K.
So I think this is a slate where people will play cheaper hitters because of all the pitching we just talked about. I'm going to pick a hitter that's exactly 5K, and that's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And this is someone that I pick probably like once or twice a week, but he's underpriced, and I don't think he'll be that highly owned because there are so many first basemen and just so many hitters in general that are facing weak pitchers compared to Vlad, who's facing Nathan Eovaldi, who's fine. Like, he's an average pitcher, maybe slightly above average. But Eovaldi is prone to having bad games. He's prone to home runs. And the Blue Jays offense is just really good. Vlad obviously is included in that. I just think that the spot kind of sets up well where he's not so expensive, and I also just don't think a lot of people are looking here.
All right, Paul.
I'm betting that the Yankees are pretty ticked off and embarrassed after losing that double dip yesterday, and I think it's a bad time for the Orioles to be their opposition. I look for the big bats to respond tonight in a large way. So I'll plug Gio Stanton into my lineup for $5,200. He went over 5 in 2 games yesterday after winning the MVP at the All-Star game. I zoomed out a bit to remind myself that he was on a bit of a homer tear before the break with 4 long ones in 7 games before the break. And I like his chances to pad the stats against an Oriole club that the Yanks have dominated this season.
Gare Bear, how much money are you spending?
I spend $5,100 on Jose Altuve, and this maybe is a little bit more about me overcoming my own personal demons. I can never seem to get Marco Gonzalez right. I always am of the opinion that the other shoe is going to drop with Marco Gonzalez at any given time, but he seems to always wriggle out of every single situation. Despite the fact he's got a FIP of 5.00 on the nose, he's in the 22nd percentile of pitchers when it comes to expected WOBA. He's in the 12th percentile in expected batting average. He's just not good, and yet he seems to somehow always come up with good starts. I don't quite understand it, but Altuve in particular, it hasn't mattered which left-handed pitcher is on the mound for him this season. He's crushed them all. His OPS is well above 1 dot this season in 85 plate appearances within the split. He's also got a 364 isolated power against lefties, which is not really something you sort of consider when you put Jose Altuve into a lineup. You're more thinking about, multiple hits, runs scored, maybe a stolen base. But he's one of the best power hitters in baseball within the split. So I think Altuve's at a really nice price point tonight. Obviously leading off for the Astros, which does give him the possibility of a 5th plate appearance.
Paul, I ask you, who's the best value bat out there tonight? And you say?
Well, the intensity rises when the Giants and Dodgers meet, and tonight I look for Evan Longoria to take advantage of the platoon matchup against Logan Webb. Longoria costs only $3,800 this evening, but goes into this game on a 3-week tear that's seen his batting average climb about 45 points and his OPS rise about 100 points. So I'll take the hot stroke with the power bat in full bloom and watch him score some points for me tonight.
Gary, which value bat do you expect to deliver extra value?
Well, to Matt's earlier point, I do think there's going to be some very chalky stacks on this slate. And I will say one of them is going to be the Diamondbacks, because there's only so many places you can go, and people don't like people do enjoy stacking against Patrick Corbin. They don't necessarily like using him. I don't know if I would go with a full-out stack. I don't know if I trust the Diamondbacks to quite that level, but I do like Christian Walker on an island. He's just $3,500. Much like Altuve, has some really impressive stats within the split against left-handed pitching, a 166 WRC plus, an isolated power sitting around 300. Walker is someone who, obviously has a floor of 0 DraftKings points. He's not exactly known for his contact skills, but his upside is immense. This is a guy who can definitely hit a couple home runs on a given slate. So I think Walker at 3,500 is a nice gamble.
Maddie, is your value bat part of a stack tonight?
No, I'm going to totally contradict myself with these next 2 picks because the team that has all the value is a team that I want no part of in GPPs. So for cash games only, the best value on this slate, I think, is Garrett Cooper, assuming he's hitting in his normal spot in the order. Platoon advantage against Jose Quintana, who I think is like an average pitcher, but Cooper is $2,300. And the rest of the Marlins aren't even that much more expensive than that. So I think you kind of want to look to all the Marlins for your cash games. GPPs, we'll get to in a second because everyone is going to be on this, I think. The Diamondbacks, I actually only think will be the 2nd most popular offense. So there's tons of value on both of those teams, but Cooper's price just doesn't really make any sense to me, assuming Quintana is the starting pitcher. I don't know if that's 100% confirmed yet, but he looks like the probable guy. So these right-handed bats on Miami are just so much cheaper than they should be tonight.
All right, Gary, it's someone you're totally fading on this slate.
Yeah, I mean, you got to fade a couple of these amazing all-star caliber pitchers, so it's not really surprising to say I'm going to fade Yu Darvish, but this is someone who not only has been very poor on the road this season, he's been basically a different pitcher at Petco Park than he's been anywhere else in baseball in 2022, with an ERA up over 5 on the road this season. But the Mets are also just a really bad matchup for a right-handed pitcher. They come into this game with the 2nd best WRC plus in the National League against right-handed pitching. And crucially, they are one of 3 teams in baseball with a strikeout rate below 20% against right-handed pitching. I just don't think there's a lot of upside here for Darvish, who, again, has really struggled with not pitching in San Diego this season. I just don't feel like there's a need to risk it here with so many other viable pitching options.
Hey, Paul, got an all-star caliber player you are fading?
Yes, I do. I like to look at the batter versus pitcher matchups when the sample size is significant, and that's the case that leads me to fading Manny Machado tonight in his matchup against Scherzer, who's pitching to the lowest ERA of any single season in his long career with a 2.2 mark in the 2022. That's a lot of deuces. Machado's only 8 for 47 with 19 strikeouts and no walks versus the Mets ace.
All right, Matty, who's a fade?
Well, I was going to talk about the Marlins, but we just found out between my last answer and this current answer that Zach Thompson is going to start for the Pirates, not Jose Quintana. So I'll just leave that one aside for now. It kind of throws a wrench in that entire situation. The guy I think I'm fading is actually Aaron Judge, and it's not that I don't think it's a good spot for him. It's actually quite a good spot against Tyler Wells, but Judge is $6,200, and I think people will still play him to a decent extent because once you get all these cheap hitters into your lineup, you probably do have quite a bit of salary left. And I think Judge is just the first guy in for most people. So it's not that I don't like Judge tonight. It's just that there are so many good outfield choices. I think my favorites would be guys like George Springer and Teoscar Hernandez to, pivot to for cheaper. I like Judge. He's probably going to do something good, but just the ownership, I think, will be too high that I'd rather look elsewhere.
All right, before we bring you guys back to talk some sports book for tonight's 13-game MLB main slate, let's get a slate-approved pick for you. So your favorite DFS play for the first big slate of the second half, Garion.
Just going to stick with Charlie Morton. Again, the Angels, just their overall awfulness from the past 3 weeks, compounded by the fact they've lost Mike Trout. I just don't know how this team can survive that. I mean, they haven't been surviving anyway, but this is a AAA caliber lineup that happens to feature Shohei Ohtani, and I think Charlie Morton's going to really, really just go through them like butter tonight.
All right, Matty.
So my favorite pick was going to be Jose Quintana to have some leverage off the Marlins. I have to scrap that now. I'm going to go with Zach Gallen, and I think he could actually get a decent-sized boost later on today if Juan Soto isn't in the lineup. And we all have seen the stories around Soto and having to fly his own plane and all the things with his contract. And it doesn't seem crazy to me that he would get a night off tonight. And if you take Soto out of the Nationals lineup, it becomes a dramatically easier matchup for the opposing pitcher. And Gallen's only $7,600. Like, this is kind of underpriced for him. And I think he goes overlooked because of, all these other pitchers that we've mentioned. So he's under 8,500. I didn't talk about him before, but I think Gallen is a really good play. And then especially if Soto's not in the lineup.
Okay, Paul, bring us home here, man.
Hey, just like Gossman, the Jays are counting on George Springer to be a big game player, and he's tended to rise to the occasion consistently for my favorite team. Tonight, he's in a big spot for both clubs, but I expect him to set the tone for his contest in the first at-bat of the game. He opted to rest instead of going to the All-Star game, and we'll see how much that decision pays off this evening.
All right, you three hang out because we're going to do some best bets on the diamond coming up. But right after this break, Kyler Murray is extremely rich once again, and we're going to talk with Pierce and Jeff Ulrich about it after this break. Kyler Murray's going to remain with the Cardinals after all here, following all that offseason drama. The two sides reportedly coming together on a massive $230.5 million contract extension on Thursday. So we can finally put to bed the question of whether or not Kyler Murray made a mistake of picking football over baseball. So after he signed that deal, let's see, $46.1 million annual salary is almost that of the entire 2022 payroll of the Oakland Athletics. That is the same team that drafted him 9th overall in 2018. Pierce Dietrich, Jeff Ulrich, hello, good morning. Happy Friday to both of you. Let's play some over-under here, and we'll start with Kyler Murray because we have a new DK special on the board at the DraftKings Sportsbook. It is called Hail Murray. Will Kyler go for over 4,000 passing yards and 500 rushing yards next season? So you can get that right now for plus 210 odds on the DK Sportsbook. Is this reachable for Murray? How realistic is this, Jeff Ulrich?
I mean, it's very reachable. I think that's a given. I think we all know that. I think if Kyler Murray stays on the board for 17 full games, I mean, this is a player who hit 3,700 passing yards in 14 games last year. I'm not worried about the passing total with Kyler Murray. I know DeAndre Hopkins isn't going to be there, but I'm not exactly hyper bullish on this Arizona Cardinals defense. And they're also in a tougher division where I think they're going to be behind a lot and getting into the higher scoring games against the Rams and 49ers offense. So I think the passing yards will be there. Kyler Murray also proven himself to be a good deep ball passer. The worry is the rushing yards. You could see Kyler Murray try and dial it back a bit. He's got the money locked up. He doesn't have to go out there and put his body on the line every week. And then we're really just betting on the injury situation. Can Kyler Murray stay on the field for 17 games? Because realistically, if you told me he's going to be on the field for 17 games, I pretty much have to take the over. I think that I would lean towards the over, even though this is a spot where I really just dislike betting on NFL player props because we're basically just betting and trying to fade an injury all year. But I do like the spot for Kyler. I think he's going to have lots to prove with a lot of people talking about the contract. And I think that Arizona is going to just have to basically use him as their profile weapon. So yeah, I'll take the risk. I'll say that Kyler plays at least 16 games, and I'll say that this is probably a spot where you should be going over, unless you've got some injury news or you just think that Kyler is just too small for the NFL. But I'll take the over on this one. I do think that again, Kyler's in for a pretty big statistical year, if nothing else.
Okay, Pierce, but how much does no DeAndre Hopkins first 6 games of the season? How much does that impact his chances here of hitting 4,000 passing yards?
It'll hurt some statistically. I think actually it might be better in the long run. Give Hopkins, a little bit of time off, take care of his body. He's dealing with, some injury issues of his own, and he's getting up there in years. I think ultimately it's better for the team that Hopkins might miss some of those early games. And they picked up some receivers to maybe fill the void with Hollywood Brown. We'll see how that works out. He's got to catch the passes. A.J. Green's still there. They've got a triple tight end set. It's kind of interesting on paper. I don't know if I like this team or hate this team. We'll see. I lean towards them not being that great, but there could be some interesting chemistry with the pieces that they put in this offense. But for me, I think he goes under. I'm just going to take the opposite side of what Jeff said. I hate to wish an injury on anybody, and I'm not doing that by any means, but it's hard to stay healthy in the NFL, and he hasn't proven that he can stay healthy in the NFL. And on top of that, this team likes to run the ball. Last year, 7th most in rushes per game. And that's not just some fluke or trend. That's what they've been doing under their head coach. You look at the year before that, 6th most rush attempts per game. This is a running team. They want to run. They don't really want to risk Kyler Murray. I say he goes under.
Yeah, and they just look non-competitive in that loss to the Rams. What was that, 34-11 in the NFC wildcard round? Speaking of the Rams, another dude who signed a big deal, big beefy Aaron Donald, number 99, part of the 99 club in Madden. So helped LA win the Super Bowl there last year, guys. The season sack total set at, around 11.5. You expect another big season from the 31-year-old defensive tackle here, Pierce?
I don't. He'll have a good season. It's not like he's completely lost it or anything, but he's lost a lot of his motivation. He won the Super Bowl, got a giant contract. There's no real reason to go out there and chase magnificent numbers. He'll be productive. This will be a good team. I don't think he's really going to be focused too much on the 2022 season. He's probably focused more on getting on season 32 of Dancing with the Stars. I wouldn't be surprised to see the LA player start to go that route of, we saw that with LeBron James. We've seen that with other LA athletes. Once they have a big season, they win the Super Bowl, they have the big stats, then they start to branch off into other things, and then they lose a little bit of focus. And I think that little bit of focus that he loses will put him under.
All right, talk to me here, Jeff Ulrich. Do you want to go over or under that mark?
Mark the tape. Pierce and I actually agree about something. Look, Aaron Donald, he's hitting his early 30s, 31, 32, and he's coming off a Super Bowl. We have seen this, and this position sometimes doesn't get talked enough. We have seen steep regression as well by players in this position, and obviously J.J. Watt comes to mind at this point in their career. And look, Aaron Donald at this point, he doesn't need to go out there and play 17. He doesn't need another defensive player in the year. Like Pierce said, maybe he wants to do little things on the side, a little Dancing with the Stars. At the very least, any niggle of injury here, he's going to take a few weeks off. Because what do you need Aaron Donald for if you're the Rams? You're probably going to make the playoffs. You've got two weaker teams in the division. You need him to be healthy for the playoffs. It's a very good chance. If you were giving me an over-under, Aaron Donald, 14.5 games played, I'm taking the under. I think that you will see him at this point in his career just be a little bit more focused on those playoffs, on being healthy for the playoff run. And again, I mean, the Rams coming off a long season, there's just too many narratives here for me to want to take the over. Aaron Donald's still great. He's going to be great for a few more years, but I'm going to take the under on the sacks for sure.
Yeah, and the man he sacked to lock up that Super Bowl last year, that's Joe Burrow, who had a hell of a year, 34 touchdowns. His 2022 season total, just above that, 34 and a half. So tell me right now, Jeff Ulrich, over or under, can Burrows continue to add to his offensive numbers and go over here? Joe Burrow, man. Comeback player of the year.
Yeah, it's Joe Burrow. Of course we're going over. We're going over on everything Joe Burrow. There's no discussion here. There's no sitting on the fence, oh, I'm worried about injury with Kyler Murray. This one's easy, folks. Remember back to last preseason. Everyone's looking at Joe Burrow. Oh, he's walking with a limp. This guy had his knee shredded. What did he do? He came in, threw 34 touchdowns, 4,600 yards, led the league in yards per attempt, took his team to the Super Bowl. What do you think he's going to do with a full offseason of Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Boyd? They got great pass-catching backs. This guy is going to light things up in 2022. I don't know about if they're going to get back to the Super Bowl. I do know these Joe Burrow props are too low. You got to take the over on them. The Bengals are going to be a great offense. They got Jamar Chase just racking up the long touchdowns. Joe Burrow is a guy right now. I think that his props are actually a little bit too low, and there's good value to take there. You got to go over on the touchdowns.
Joe Shiesty, Joe Cool, Joey Franchise, Joe Burst, Smoking Joe, Jackpot Joey Pierce. Come on, you want to go over this touchdown total?
Of course I do. Throw the stats. Throw out the analytics. Have you seen
Pierce.
Bengals helmets? Have you seen the white helmet that they're going to use this
Sexy!
season? In that white helmet, still over
Sexy!
10,000 yards. It's unbelievable. Can we get that on the screen? Can we get the white helmet on the screen? It's amazing.
Wow.
10,000 yards, 20,000 yards. But seriously, though, last year, there was times where they held him back and they ran the ball a lot. I don't think you're going to see that this season. The offensive line was in disarray last season. They had a lot of injuries. They brought in free agents. They're healthy. We know the weapons that he has. And this is just year 3. He's got an off season to prepare, just like Jeff said. The numbers are going to be through the roof. The only thing that could possibly happen is if the coaching staff, for whatever reason, decides to dial things down. But that doesn't make any sense. You might as well pass more so you can save Joe Mixon's legs for the playoffs. Again, the white helmets, they're amazing.
Dude, I'm trying to pull it up right now, and they do look hot. Oh, yeah. No, I can't show you that. That's from a competitor's website. Here, I can show you this one. This is from the Bengals. Look at these things, man. Oh, my God.
White
Pierce.
tiger.
White, yeah, it's white tiger, like a white Bengal. They're extremely rare. You can see them in zoos at Busch Garden, dude. Pierce, oh. You're right, man. These things are hot. Oh, it is. Sticky in this studio. Let's go from 2 guys who played in the Super Bowl last year, hold on, to one who hopes to bring the team there. Let's go. Our Lord and Savior, Josh Allen, throwing for just north of 4,400 yards last season. That's pretty much where the DK Sportsbook thinks he's going to be again in 2022. Total set at 4,400 and a half. You expect Allen to go over or under this number, Jeff Ulrich? Come on, it was a coin toss that ruined his season.
I can't do it. I can't go over. It's got nothing to do with me thinking Josh Allen is a bad quarterback. There's just a couple factors in play. This is a big number. 4,400 yards. And look, the Bills are a good team. Like that means that they may not have to pass the ball 50 times. Like they could easily dial it back just a little bit here and say, okay, we drafted a running back. We're ahead like all these games. I'm not going to put Josh Allen out there dropping back 50 times when we're ahead 2 scores with 10 minutes to go. I just worry about the volume here. And I also worry about the other fact. Josh Allen is basically just, he kind of just thinks he's invincible sometimes out there. It always gets me a little bit worried that the injury is always just like a concussion is always around the corner. So this one at 4,400 yards, if it was, obviously it was closer to 4,000, even just a couple hundred yards, you'd probably say over because we could hit it in 16 games. But at 4,400, I'm not going to touch this one. I don't necessarily know if I want to fade Josh Allen and go take the under, but I'd definitely be more inclined to take the under if you're forcing me to choose than take the over. it's a good number. Like it's the correct number for Josh Allen. And I really do think that the Bills, just because they're going to be so good, they might dial back the passing enough to hit this under.
All right, I'm forcing you, Pierce, to go over or under 44.5 passing yards for Josh Allen.
Well, it's another white helmet, so we're going to have to go over again.
Yeah!
Look, they've been good for a while. They've been beating their opponents for the last couple seasons. This team doesn't know how to run. Passing is in their DNA. They get up by 10, 15 points. They just keep passing. It's what they do. Yeah, they did draft a running back, but he does lean towards being more of a receiving running back. Tons of receiving weapons on this team. We could, see Gabe Davis possibly show some more potential this year. They lost Cole Beasley, but they upgraded with Jamison Crowder. There are tons of weapons on this team. 2 really good tight ends. The offensive line might need some work, but I just can't see them all of a sudden, after having 2 really productive, successful seasons of almost making the Super Bowl, as hungry as they are to say, yeah, you know what, let's just start running the ball more. No, I think they're just going to completely unleash Josh Allen. He's only 26 years old. He's only going to get better. Yeah, injuries can happen, but that can happen to anybody. I think that he's going to go absolutely crazy this season.
Yeah, man, the favorite right now to win the Super Bowl in the DK Sportsbook, 2 plus 600. Plus 600 for the Bills, man. Oh, we've had too much coffee today, and we're in a really good mood, and it's Friday. So before we wrap up this football segment and we switch gears to NASCAR with you two coming up later in this show, let's talk CFL, Jeff Ulrich. Come on. This is your country, man. We got a whopping 2 games to choose from this weekend. So hook me up with your best CFL bet on this slate. Let's go. Come on, man.
2 games to choose from, and the Argonauts and the Rough Riders, there's like COVID issues, so we're not even like 100% sure this game's going to be. I think it's okay now. But look, let's focus on the Blue Bombers and the Elks, because that's today. That's tonight. That's a game that you should be excited about right now. Now, look, you're looking at this game, the Elks coming off a big win. The Blue Bombers, they're looking for a three-peat. Like they're one of the best teams, if not the best team, in the CFL right now. This line at 7.5, I got to say, I don't know how the Elks are going to score points here. The Blue Bombers allow like less than 80 yards rushing per game. So right off the bat, I'm going to tell you, I think my favorite bet in this game is going under 48 points, because the Blue Bombers, I just don't see them giving up a ton of yards. And we could get in a situation where they're just ahead and this game is just over with like a quarter to go and we're just burning time here. So I think that the CFL is a league where sometimes, we dramatize the shootouts, but I don't think that the Elks offense with the quarterback that they have is going to be able to put up points. I like the under here. I think my second favorite play would be to try and get the Blue Bombers at some kind of like alternate spread. Like take them at like a key number, like 6.5, like bet it down. 7.5, it seems a little bit big, but even just at 7.5, like I'm leaning towards the spread with the Blue Bombers. This team is just so much better than the Elks. They've got a great quarterback, probably one of the best in the league in Zach Collaros. Give me the Blue Bombers and give me the under here. If you can get an alternate spread, that's fine. Maybe even juice it up to go like 9.5 and take it at that number. But I like the Blue Bombers and I like the under.
Peek behind the curtain here. Right before this segment, we were talking about the CFL and how freaking excited we are this weekend for this 2-game slate. Jeff Ulrich's like, I can name 5 players in the league. I said, I can name 0. Pierce says, I can name 1, and that's where you're going for your bet?
That's right.
Yeah.
BC Lions led to 10 points, led by the best quarterback. The best quarterback's not Collaros. The best quarterback is Nathan Rourke from Ohio University. 4th most passing yards, most passing touchdowns, has the highest quarterback rating at 130. 8th most in rushing yards as a quarterback, and he's only played in 4 games compared to some of the guys that have played in 6 games. This Canadian star probably going to be coming to the States soon. Pete Carroll, give him a call.
My man, dude. My man. DOS Bobcats. Well, now that you've poked over to Jeff Ulrich's world, Jeff Ulrich is going to poke over to your world. We're going to talk some NASCAR. Guys, have your top 3 M&Ms, like your rankings, ready to go. Okay, you have this sportsbook baseball segment to get those 3 stacked up, all right? Because this is extremely important information we need to share with the people. We're back with best baseball bets after this. All right, we did the DFS baseball. What are you shaking your head no for? For M&M rankings? Okay, yeah, that's going to come up after this segment. This segment's award-winning as well. Did the DFS baseball thing earlier. Screw that. It's in the past. Let's go Sportsbook on the DK Sportsbook. Same three analysts, Matt Meiselman, Gary Thorne, Paul Bruno. Yes, I'm so happy you guys are back. We're covering the bases. Again, a 13-game slate here. So first base, favorite money line bet. Paul Bruno, where are you going?
The Astros have to be feeling great after taking both ends of the double dip yesterday against the Yankees, and I like their chances of riding that wave in the opener of a series against the surging Mariners. They're on a 14-game winning streak. That's the highest in all of the major leagues this year. I think the Astros put an end to that behind starter Jose Urquidy, who comes into the game on a roll with 6 quality starts against Marco Gonzalez, who's given up 27 hits over his last 18 and 2/3 innings pitched.
Gare Bear.
I also like the Astros on the money line. Look, I'm not really buying this team of destiny stuff with the Mariners. I think a really key stat for me is when you look in the month of July, which, again, Seattle's been the best team in baseball in July by wins and losses. The Astros still have noticeably better marks in WRC plus and WOBA. They've been a better offensive team than the quote-unquote best team in baseball during this stretch of time. I don't love Jose Urquidy, but as Paul mentioned, he's been pitching some of the best baseball of his season, which was a relatively low bar, but still a 2.43 ERA across his last 5 starts. And I just don't trust Marco Gonzalez. I will warn people, anytime I bet on Marco Gonzalez, take the other side because I am 0% with him this season. But there's as good a chance he allows 1 earned run or 10 earned runs. That's kind of like the book on Marco Gonzalez. I just think the win streak comes to an end tonight, so give me the Astros.
Mr. Matty.
Wait, teams of destiny are not a real thing? That's just me being bitter about the Celtics. I'm sorry. So for tonight, I'm going to go back to the team that it seems like I always pick for sportsbook segments, and that is the Cincinnati Reds, my new favorite team, who I think have been undervalued on the money line essentially every game for like a month now. And a lot of it is just that they got a bunch of guys back from the IL. They were missing like half their roster for the beginning of the season, and now they have a healthy batting order that is quite good, and I think it's comparable to what the Cardinals have. They don't have Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, but top to bottom, with guys like Jonathan India and Brandon Drury and Tommy Pham playing well, I don't think the Cardinals really have much of an edge on the mound or in the batting order. So plus 140, I think that is way too high, and this is like a 50-50 game. So this is easily my favorite bet on the board today.
All right, second base, favorite run line bet. Garion, is it in your DK Nation article here that I just opened up?
It isn't, actually.
Wow.
I didn't take any run line bets there, but I will say I do like this bet quite a bit, and Matt sort of referenced this pitching matchup earlier, but it's the most lopsided on the slate. It's Corbin Burns, who is exceptional against Antonio Senzatella, who might be one of the worst active pitchers in baseball. He's even bad on the road, which is saying something for a Colorado pitcher. Senzatella actually has a 5.93 expected ERA this season. That is 126th of the 129 pitchers who have thrown at least 60 innings this season. Also, when it comes to the Brewers lineup, they have been so much better this year against right-handed pitching than they have been against left-handed pitching due to the handedness of a lot of their best hitters. I mean, it really makes a lot of sense when you look at that lineup. They should hit right-handed pitching a lot better than they've hit lefties. With Burns on the mound, I don't think they're going to have much trouble blowing out the Rockies in this one. So I'll take the Brewers on the run line at -125.
Paul, favorite run line bet tonight. Where are you going, man?
I'm staying in the AL East. The Yankees are only a -105 favorite if you give up the 1.5 runs tonight against Baltimore. I spoke earlier of the Yankees' dominance in this head-to-head series and expect more of the same this evening. Look, they have too many weapons, and this will be their 4th look at O's starter Tyler Wells, who's done okay against the Bronx Bombers this season, but I think they're going to take advantage of that familiarity tonight.
All right, Matty.
Well, my honest answer is just take the Reds on the run line also in addition to the money line. I really think this is the best spot for all purposes for tonight. But if I have to pick a different one, I'm actually okay taking the 1.5 with Oakland, even though you're laying -175. Cole Irvin, I think at this point, is probably better than Spencer Howard, who was a decent prospect, but just hasn't really panned out. A lot of his starts just turned into bullpen games. But the reason that I'm comfortable with laying odds here also is because this should be one of the lower scoring games of the day. So getting a 3-2 or a 4-3 outcome, it's more likely than in some of these games where it could be higher scoring and you get the bullpens giving up runs late. So across the board, I think the A's are undervalued. But I also lean towards the under with this game, so that just makes it easier to cover the 1.5 runs.
All right, now we're going to go to third base. We're going to the hot corner. Favorite game total here, Paul?
Look, a solid pitching matchup that I touched on earlier is on the docket tonight, and that's the Jays' visit to Boston this evening. Gausman, I talked about earlier, very sharp all season long, not receiving a lot of run support, though, and I think that's going to continue because of the way that Nathan Eovaldi is pitching of late with 3 or fewer earned runs in his last 5 starts. I take the underside of these two offenses reaching the 8.5 total tonight.
All right, Gary, and your favorite game total, and you want to go over or under it?
I'm going to go under, actually, the lowest total on the slate, but we sort of referenced this earlier with Charlie Morton. I don't trust the Angels to score any runs, ever. And you're basically dealing with, like, Major League Baseball's best run deterrent when you've got the Angels lineup going with Shohei Ohtani pitching. Shohei Ohtani, it's not going to last forever, obviously, a run like this, but 2 earned runs allowed in his last 39 2/3 innings pitched. He's got a FIP of 1.02 in his last 6 starts. He's been absolutely incredible. So even if the Braves come in here and score 2 or 3 runs off Ohtani, maybe a couple off the Angels bullpen, that's possible as well. But Atlanta also has the best bullpen in the National League by FIP. So I just don't think the Angels are going to do anything tonight. And I think the Braves by themselves won't get 7 runs off a game started by Ohtani. So I'll take the under here at plus 100.
Matt, I would love to hear what your favorite game total is tonight.
Well, I do have one that I like a lot, and I swear I'm not doing this to be the contrarian, but I'm going the opposite side of Paul's pick
Yes!
with the Red Sox and the Jays. And it's, I mean, you guys know that are in Boston right now. It is quite warm there.
Dude, it's hot. It's ridiculously hot. It's disgusting, and I want to move. And summer is the worst season out of all 4 of them.
Yep. So this is a big factor, especially, and I agree with you entirely. This is a big factor, especially when you have 2 extreme fly ball pitchers on the mound in Gausman and Eovaldi. I think both guys are good pitchers. I think Gausman, though, in particular, has been so lucky this year with a 3.3% home run per fly ball rate. Like, that is just not sustainable for anybody. And now you're getting a hitting environment that is better than what both of these teams are used to playing in. Like, it's not normally 90 degrees and with the wind expected to be blowing out towards center field. So this is more of a weather play than anything, but I do think that the Jays have been underperforming offensively. The Red Sox had Devers out of the lineup for a decent stretch recently, and I think all of that adds up to just make run scoring undervalued. So I actually like both of these pitchers, but I still like the over in this game.
Seasonal rankings right now. Number 1, fall. I'm going 2, winter. I'm going 3, spring. And summer, because this nasty stretch, my underwear is on fire, 4. See you, summer.
Your AC's broken, isn't it? Like, that's...
Yeah, one of my... Yeah,
I
one of
feel
my...
like you're in a bad headspace, man.
I am not well right now. I'm going to be real with you. Let's go home really quick. Favorite player prop. Let's go, Garion.
I'll touch base again with Jose Altuve. Like I mentioned, he's got some fantastic numbers against left-handed pitching this season. I also like these total bases props when the player in question is going up against a pitcher that is just very contact-oriented. Marco Gonzalez is in the bottom 2% of qualified pitchers when it comes to strikeout rate this season. That probably means Jose Altuve is going to have 4 or 5 batted ball events tonight. And I think when you give a hitter of his caliber that many opportunities to put a ball in play, odds are pretty good he's going to get more than 2 bases. So at plus 100, I'm going to take that chance with Altuve.
Matty, hook me up with your favorite player prop tonight, please.
I will pick something that is not a stolen base prop because I realize this may be getting a little bit stale. So I'll go with something else. Shohei Ohtani is plus 650 to hit a home run tonight, and Charlie Morton is a good pitcher. I think that this is more of a DFS thing and a matchup thing for Morton, why we all like him tonight. The rest of the Angels without Mike Trout are quite bad. So that says nothing about Ohtani. Like, he still is more than capable of hitting the ball out of the ballpark, and plus 650 is just way higher of a line than he normally gets, even against better pitching. So I think that maybe he's just getting a downgrade because the rest of the Angels are so bad right now. But like, there's no reason for this number to be where it is. Like, Ohtani is still a good home run hitter, and I like Morton this year is an ERA in the mid fours. His expected numbers are in the mid fours. He could strike out everyone else, but Ohtani could still hit one out. That's sort of what I expect for this game.
Okay, Paul, bring us home.
I look for another pitcher's duel in New York tonight with the marquee matchup between Scherzer, who has 31 strikeouts in his last 3 starts, and Darvish. Even though one of the guys panned him earlier, he's beat tonight's strikeout prop in 6 of his last 7 starts. It doesn't matter where he's pitched either. I take both starters to hit the over tonight. Scherzer plus 100 for 7.5 and Darvish plus 105 for 5.5 strikeouts.
All right, guys, that was a tremendous job, from season rankings to M&M rankings and some NASCAR talk. Final break of the show coming up with Pierce and Jeff. All right, we're back here for our final block of the show. We are going to have some fun. We're going way off the rails or way off the track. Talking some NASCAR with Jeff Ulrich and Pierce Dietrich.
The show is plummeting. That's all I know.
Yeah, that's a big word. Should we update everybody? Here they are. Let's update everybody on the season standings here for NASCAR. So Jeff, 551 right now. Pierce, 674. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened last week. Did you guys give out? I wasn't here on Friday. Did you guys give out picks for the New Hampshire race?
Yes, and my guys were terrible all weekend.
All right, good. Good for you. That's good news. That's good news for Jeff. Jeff, I feel like this is the closest you've been in a while.
It is. Some cheating was involved when I checked 2 drivers one week, and Pierce was sick. But I mean, look, I showed up, so I get the credit, right? But you know, we're gonna grind within 100 points this week. We're gonna put some pressure on Pierce down the stretch here. Magic can happen. Hey, look at 1980 U.S. hockey. That could be me.
Absolutely. Do you believe in miracles? So we're going to talk some best DFS plays for this week's M&M's Fan Appreciation 400 at Pocono. Before we do that, let me get your top 3 M&M rankings. Jeff Ulrich, what do you got?
Okay, what are we talking here? Like flavors or colors?
No, like flavors, dude. Flavors.
Yeah, okay, I'm gonna go peanut 1.
Okay.
Just pure peanuts. Just the yellow bag. Those taste great. They're not terrible for you. The peanut butters are number 2. If the peanut butters, I know peanut butter is everyone's favorite, but my God, those things, they will absolutely just put a gut on you if you eat like one bag. You're working it off for like 3 weeks.
These are M&Ms, dude.
And I'm a dad. I have to think about these things. Now, the number 3 ranking is really up for debate here. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the pure chocolate. I'm going to go off the board. I'm going to go pretzel M&M for my number 3. I love salty sweet stuff. That's going to be my number 3. Get that dark chocolate stuff out of here. Let's go pretzel for number 3. But the pure, the regular, the peanut M&Ms, those are great. They're a great snack. They're not overly filling. And again, you won't have to work them off for like 4 weeks when you eat an entire bag, when you're crying to yourself watching a sad movie Saturday night.
I mean, alone on the couch Saturday night, that long romantic walk from the couch to the pantry. Pierce, where are you going? Top 3 M&M rankings.
I, too, am a dad, and my son has a damn peanut allergy, so he can't eat the yellow M&Ms.
What a
There's
loser!
nothing close. There's the yellow bag peanut M&Ms, and the rest, who cares about them? The only ones that matter can't come anywhere near my house, and it's ruined Halloween. It's ruined everything. So, awesome.
Your kid has ruined your life, dude. All right, number 3, it's fudge brownie, no doubt about it. A newcomer. I'm going crispy number 2, and peanut butter M&Ms number 1, which Pierce, your kid will never have the pleasure of devouring. Again, what an absolute loser. All right. Speaking of M&Ms, Kyle Busch, right? He's an M&Ms guy. I don't think for long. I think after the season, the sponsor's gone, right, Pierce?
That is correct.
All right. So here we go. His top price on the board this week, 10-6, hasn't finished better than 12th since a second place finish in early June. So Dietrich, is he worth paying up for this week? Can you make an argument to pay up for him?
Absolutely. We talk about current form a lot when we talk about NASCAR, even when we talk about golf. This is one of those rare occasions where track history matters. This is a unique, weird, triangle-shaped, flat track, and if you're good here, then you're going to be good here. Last year, he was $11,000. He was in the optimal lineup. The race before that, there was a doubleheader last season. $10,000. He was in the optimal lineup. You go back to the last 10 races at Pocono, 5 times he scored the most fantasy points. Several other times he had a top 5 DFS scores. He clearly knows what he's doing at this track. He's done this with multiple crew chiefs. He's going to be just fine. Pay whatever you need. And pay in M&Ms, I don't know.
Jeff, can you make an argument to stuff this large chocolatey salary inside your lineup?
I mean, yeah, you can. There's a reason why Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin are 1 and 2, and it's not that they've been the best driver this year. It's just that, like Pierce said, it's just a very unique setup this week. And again, like these are the guys that have had the most consistent, whatever you want to call it, race course history. So I would lean Kyle Busch between these two. He's just been so ridiculously dominant. Basically, I think he's had 1 race where he hasn't finished inside the top 10 at this track. So give me Kyle Busch here over Denny Hamlin. I know Busch has been a little bit, up and down this season, but also when we're looking for DFS perspective, like I think that will actually keep his ownership slightly lower than Hamlin's. I think people will just look at the discount and say, well, Hamlin's got the same kind of course history. Let's just take him. But I'll take the upside here with Kyle Busch. He's proven to us that he can just kind of come out of nowhere, grab a win on these places that he likes or even that he doesn't like. So I think Kyle Busch is fine. I do think that there's also a strategy here that says you don't need either of these guys. There's actually some really nice value, like Kyle Larson down at 9,800. Let's not forget, like last year at this track, he was doing pretty well. So now that he's a sub 10K, like you could certainly build around guys like Larson. But yeah, if I'm picking between Hamlin and Busch, let's get up to Busch this week.
I mean, but Hamlin has 6 wins at Pocono over the course of his career here, Jeff. You telling me you don't like his chances?
No, of course I like his chances. Are you listening to anything I say?
No, I'm not.
Anything.
I'm not.
Of course I like his chances. I just said there's a reason Denny Hamlin is second in salary. And it's not because he's good looking or anything like that. It's because he wins all the time and he has a ton of great finishes at this track. But again, we're talking from a DFS perspective. He's priced up to 10-4. Everyone's playing Denny Hamlin this week. I assume in NASCAR. I haven't looked at ownership projections for the week, but like if I look at them and Denny Hamlin isn't top 3 owned, I'd be kind of surprised. So Denny Hamlin is going to be popular this week. And I just think that, when you get a reaction like this, the other thing is there's better drivers now that are cheaper. Like I mentioned, Kyle Larson. So I'm just looking at at Busch and Hamlin. And I'm saying, I think Busch is probably the play I would rather build around than Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin is great, but there's better value in the upper tier right now. I think Joey Logano is actually kind of interesting as well. There's drivers down here that maybe we should fade this week too, perhaps Martin Truex Jr. But I think that or a Chase Elliott. I do think that Hamlin deserves a salary. I just think that there's better ways to build than necessarily just eating the chocolate from this week.
You have answered all of our questions that we have written in here. You just answered all of them. You went to some value. You went to guys you're staying away from.
No,
Pierce,
we haven't got to the deep value. Or
no,
anything
okay,
yet.
all right, Pierce. Let's stick to script here. Do you like Hamlin's chances or not? He's 10-4, man, and he's won here 6 times over the course of his career.
Yeah, I like his chances, and I believe you'll get a little bit lower ownership than Kyle Busch. It's easier to decipher the stat sheet and say, well, it looks like Kyle Busch is the better play. But if you dig deeper into this race course and what he's done over his career, when he first started out, that's where he got several of his wins at Pocono, and that was before they repaved the track. And this flat, old, worn-out surface reminded him a lot of the late model racetracks in Virginia that he grew up on. So he quickly figured this track out, but then they repaved it, and he struggled during the middle part of his career, and it really didn't pile up his stats. Well, over the course of several Pennsylvania winters, this track is worn down again, and wouldn't you know it, 2019 he wins. 2020 he wins again. This track is right back to where it was before. He should run really well here. Most people are just going to look at the stat sheet and say, oh, Kyle Busch has just got better numbers. Well, I mean, that is true, but Hamlin's going to start piling up the wins coming soon.
Jeff, this course was built on an old vegetable farm. Do you know what vegetable that is?
I'm going to go with carrots.
Pierce, I feel like you would know this.
Watermelons.
No, that's not a vegetable, bro.
Oh, my God.
Spinach, man, spinach. Think of Popeye. Think of these triceps right here. Jeff, you said you had like some serious value plays for this
Yeah,
race.
I do.
You want to share with me some of them?
Deep value. I got a guy I really like here. I think this could be really interesting. Eric Jones, 7,600. You look at where Eric Jones has done well. He's got top 5 finishes at 4 very comparable tracks to this week. He's this year, Eric Jones, one thing that he has done, maybe he hasn't been the most consistent driver, but what has he done for us? He's put together some top finishes. Like, there is speed with the Eric Jones car. We'd like that. He's 7,600. And you can take this a step further. I don't think we have a betting segment baked into this plan for this, so I'm just going to take it there right now. Eric Jones is plus 5,000 to win this week. He's plus 600 for a top 5 finish. Folks, I'm gonna remind you, because no one else is reminding you. I mentioned Tyler Reddick as a great long shot bet when he won. Chris Bell last week, we mentioned him. He won. These odds are even bigger. I'm saying Eric Jones this week, big week incoming. Love him as the value at 7,600. I don't care what Pierce says. We're going to bet him to win as well. We're going to bet him in the top 5. It's Eric Jones week, people. There's some big odds available on him right now.
Wow, Pierce, how low are you going here for value?
You can go pretty much to the bottom if you want. And that's just kind of a dynamic of poker. This is a big, long racetrack. You've got these stages, so everybody pretty much hangs on to the lead lap into stage 3, and then on restarts they can go 5, 6 wide, and it can get pretty hairy, and you can get a guy who's running in 25th, 30th place the entire race, and then just nails the last restart. Then it's hard to pass and sneaks away with a top 20 finish. So and if you could look at 3 of the last 4 Pocono races, there's been a driver in a $5,000 salary range that was in the optimal lineup. So I don't mind people going all the way to the bottom and taking these guys that you have no business rostering, like a Cody Ware. They're in play, but Gregson, Ty Dillon, Corey LaJoy, Todd Gilliland. I think you've got to get at least one of these $5,000 guys in your lineup. Probably going to go with the guy starting closest to the back. You could look at guys up front if you want, but I think you're just going to get one of these guys that hangs around the back. There's a long track, and then at the end he just gets 5 or 6 spots. Doesn't really have a spectacular day, but scores enough points per dollar wise.
All right, we got about 2 minutes to go in this show. Driver, you're completely fading and staying away from, Pierce.
Nobody. I'm not going to fade anybody.
Yes.
That's always the answer for me. But if you are going to go with the strategy, maybe play guys closer to the front, because everyone's going to try to play guys in the back. Maybe take cheap guys up front. Bubba Wallace was in the optimal lineup last year, and he started near the front. No one played him. They crossed him off. So be careful crossing guys out.
All right, Jeff, I think you mentioned someone earlier. I forget who it was. Do you have anybody else?
I got a couple guys. I mean, I think Chase Elliott and Chris Bell are pretty ripe to be fades here. Neither of them really have any top finishes. I think Elliott has 1 top 5 finish over his career. He's got a lot of low finishes at Pocono. So, I mean, Chris Bell coming off the win is great, but again, most of his results at this track just do not scream. So I think both these guys are kind of ripe to be faded. Maybe you could make the argument that they're good game theory plays for DFS, but I don't know, man. I mean, again, I just go back. Kyle Larson is there at 9,800, so I'd rather just play him and fade those 2 guys in Elliott and Bell.
All right, boys, we'll get you out of here with this. Best DFS play for the M&M's Fan Appreciation 400, Jeff Ulrich.
Eric Jones, 7,600. That's where we're going. That's my pick this week. He's going to deliver. I'm telling you, 50-1. Let's go.
Ooh, Pierce, is your guy going to deliver?
William Byron, my own proprietary statistical formula, calculates who the best driver is. And the best driver, according to my formula, is William Byron. Use that same formula. Look at last year's Pocono races. Guess who was the best driver in both those races? William Byron. It's a Byron week, and he's cheap, too.
I love that. I love that about you. I love that about him. I love that about Jeff. I love M&M's. Thank you, everybody, for watching us. We love you for watching us, and we're going to be back here for you to be able to watch us at 11 o'clock Eastern Time Monday morning. What is happening? Looks like we got Commanders and Titans at high noon for Madden, and then slate tonight with Glash, LaMarca, and Buke. So have a fantastic weekend, everybody, and remember, summer sucks.